contract, there's a little bit that says that all the copyright from the work that they've done is assigned over to the company, potentially that contractor could argue that that bit of the manual's theirs and ask you to pay them extra for it or something like that.
So, for example, we were to sell it, could they claim a percentage?
That's right. They could potentially.
Yep.
It doesn't happen a lot in real life, but I've known it to happen where, say, a consultant has said, well, you're not allowed to reproduce this pamphlet or this photograph or that piece of copywriting without paying me an extra fee.
Okay.
So it does happen in sort of that kind of bit, where they haven't sort of told you up front, obviously.
Is there a standard agreement we can download from the internet?
No.
Is that lawyer talk?
Nah.
Shoot me down.
No. Please don't download from the internet and then change the words. Yeah, because the only reason is, and this goes for any type of contract, whether it's assignment of copyright, whether it's a contractor's agreement or terms and conditions, a lot of people download those off the internet. The thing is, that's not your business. And wouldn't you want to have something tailored to your needs that your customers understand? And let me tell you that, and I'm a different kind of lawyer, you can probably tell, but I have yellow business cards.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but the thing is that even your terms and conditions of trade can become part of your brand. If they're in plain English, if they don't use, hundreds of pieces of legal jargon, if they're not 25 pages long in 1-point font on carbon copy, those ones that you never read. So if you're wanting to create a relationship, and that's what a contract is, and even a copyright assignment contract is going to be creating a relationship. It's a point from which to negotiate, really. And a lot of people are scared of that, and they're scared of legals. And because they're scared of legals and they find lawyers, unapproachable and all that sort of thing, they fail to register their trademarks, they fail to get their copyright assignments, they fail to get their terms and conditions done until they've stuffed up and somebody doesn't pay them, or somebody pinches their business name, or somebody tries to pass themselves off as them. So sometimes they don't literally steal your name or your logo, but they create a picture that sort of appears as if it's you, even though they're not literally copying you. Do you know what I mean? And there's common laws of passing off and things like that you can turn to for that sort of thing. But isn't it better to register all the aspects of your brand as a trademark so that they couldn't ever do that?
Fantastic. Thank you. Now we'll take it back to Bridget. Now you've got a couple of examples of trademarks and branding.
I have. I would also just like to quickly add to what Linda just said about the passing off. I think it works both ways. If you're setting up a brand and you're putting your heart, your soul and your back pocket into it, then you don't want someone to trade off your brand. Yep. And they don't want you to trade off theirs. And I always ask the question, well, if you're going to do something that looks like someone else, then whose brand are you building? And ultimately you want to be building your own. So all of that money, all of that time, all of that love needs to go into building your brand. And so thinking, we can do this because it might, maybe get us a couple of customers because they might get confused, doesn't work. Ultimately, it backfires. I thought about this as a case in point around trademarks. Coca-Cola own, I don't know how many thousands of trademarks, but they actually own a trademark on the bottle shape. So much so that a great piece of guerrilla marketing, I think it was at the Atlanta Olympics, was them putting up a poster, pretty much down the side of a building, and all it was the bottle shape. Didn't have the name anywhere, didn't have to. Nike, one of the most compelling posters I've ever seen, just had the swoosh on it. Now, I know I'm using big brand examples, but they started little, as I said before, and everyone has to start somewhere. If it's not protected, you may as well not bother.
Yeah. Now, Love Marks, tell us a bit about that. This is one of my absolute favourite business books there is. Has anyone read the book Love Marks?
Love Marks? It's by Kevin Roberts, who's the CEO, or the worldwide CEO of Saatchi & Saatchi, which is one of the better known, more successful, both in terms of their bottom line and their clients' bottom lines, agencies around the world. And he wrote this book about love marks because he wanted to talk about brands as more than just a mark on a wall. And this is where I kind of come from in the sense of a brand making an emotional connection. Now, it doesn't matter if your brand is young or old or which market it's dealing with. What you want is that emotional response. Tash was talking before about getting people's attention. You've got 0.3 of a second to get someone's attention, whether it be online or offline or on the radio. That's all you've got, or you've lost them. And a love mark is something that starts to build that relationship, draws on the emotional connection and just drags you with it the whole of your life. I have a love affair with Tupperware. Started with my grandmother.
I can't believe you admitted that.
No, do not have a problem with it. No, it is one of the most beautiful brands I've ever used. It consistently delivers on its promise, and it's been delivering since my first piece 25 years ago.
You still own that piece, don't you?
My grandmother gave it to me. It was a baking sheet, and they've actually brought it back. It was such a successful piece in their range that they've brought it back. That's a brand that is a love mark. Kevin Roberts is bald, but apparently uses Head and Shoulders shampoo because he loves the brand so much.
There you go.
Now, I'm not saying that everyone's going to build that emotional connection, but you've got to get out there and give it a go.
Now we'll take 3 audience questions. Who's got a question? Yep.
Quick one for Linda. If I tried to register a trademark called grey chairs, it's a descriptive term and obviously it would fail. But if I now registered a logo which was a green box with the font in it that said grey chairs, could I register that logo as a device and then protect the name grey chairs that way?
You could try to. You'd have to be making it pretty distinctive. So you might change the way you spell grey chairs so that it's, I don't know, GRAE something else. What time is it? 7 o'clock, she can't think. Something like that, with a Z. And you might have, you'd want to have a pretty distinctive sort of picture. You know what I mean? You don't want to stick a grey chair in there with just grey chairs written down, because that you can see that you're trying to defeat the whole
system.
System, really. But at the end of the day, if it's distinctive enough, click fast, you know, all of those sorts of things, they're spelt weird. You can see that those things have been successful. You know, Krispy Kreme donuts with their little Ks. It's the rhyme as well, but those things are different. But yes, you can get around it, but it does need to be pretty distinctive. It needs to become a badge. A lot of people have come back to me time and time and time again with new drawings of pictures just to get around it, but the word's still massive in the middle of it, you know what I mean? Like that sort of thing, because they're just so attached to that word, you know? But I say to them, you know, maybe instead of having just the picture and the word, that you put it all into a badge, literally. So put a big circle around it, make it feel as if that whole picture is your trademark, not just the word. So we go back to feel.
Second question, you had a question? Yeah. Yep.
It's for you.
Oh, thanks.
How does it go when you have 2 different companies trademarking the same name in different categories? Like Category 35, Category 41, all those sorts of things.
Yes.
Isn't there going to be a branding conflict and all that there as well?
Well, there is, but I mean, the law allows trademarks to be registered in different classes. Now, there are, for example, there can be difficulties there. Like that's the sort of black and white view of it. But for example, I had a client that had the trademark Moving Forward, and Telstra has the trademark Moving Forward. Her business is called Moving Forward Business Coach. She was wanting to register it in class 42 or 41 for training, 41 for education and training, and part and parcel of that was that she helps people do manuals and things. Telstra, the Trademarks Office objected, because they said, and the thing is, searches and things, and she hadn't come to me, I hadn't done the searches, but even had we done the searches, it would have been pretty difficult to pick this because they were being very picky, is that Telstra had it registered in class 16 for paper and circulars and all of that sort of thing. And they said that within the class 41 claim, there was a potential that she would be crossing over into class 16 and therefore breaching Telstra's trademark. The reason they picked it up was because Telstra's so famous. And there are exceptions. Like if no one would get McDonald's, even if you tried to do it for lingerie.
McDonald's.
Do you know what I mean? But, but Virgin tried to sue a little guy who was trying to trademark Virgin Home Services, and they didn't win because there was never going to be any likelihood, the court determined, that Virgin was going to go into home services, but I doubt that. I reckon they're going to anything. So you never ever know. It's very intricate.
Okay, we'll take one last question and we'll wrap it up. Yep.
I've also got a trademark question.
Yes.
Is it not the case that once you've registered a trademark, you actually have to use it?
Yes, definitely.
In order to maintain protection.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you register in Iceland,
Yes.
you might do.
That's one thing that I didn't mention. Part one of the rules is that you've got to prove that you're going to use it, or or you're using it, or you've got an intention to use it. And the thing is, in the trademark registration process, it allows for people, once you've put it in, takes 4 months to be examined. Then it gets examined by an examiner, and then once they've accepted it, it's still got to be advertised to the whole of Australia to give people a chance to object to it. And one of the grounds for objection is that, well, they're not using it, so they can't get it.
Okay, fantastic. Now we'll wrap this up. 3 tips on graphic design and branding for small business.
Go with something that you personally identify with that is also, as long as it doesn't conflict with the market that you're going with, because I think you need to be passionate about what you're promoting and be proud to be presenting that business card and handing over, especially for smaller businesses, part of yourself and your personal brand. Use your brand consistently across all material. And do a little bit of a brand audit, say every 6 months or so, and just keep track of ensuring that any new material that you're producing actually fits with the older material that you have, and have a look at it as a set and ensure that it is actually all going together and helping to promote on a larger scale.
Fantastic, thank you. 3 tips, Bridget, branding.
Do as much research as you can up front, understand your market, understand your competition, and understand